So, Zadari Enterprises would like to remind you that I don't know if we're getting any audio on. We're not getting any of your audio on the stream.
That is because... Sorry about that. That is because... that is because OBS decided to not update it.
Okay, so first, never without a botch. Second, Monk fucked up the intro. Start again!
Taking it from the top. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me is my good brother here in the temple, the man of 1,000 runes, the CEO of Zadari Enterprises, and the bane of my fucking existence, good brother Xanatrix.
Zadari Enterprises would like to remind you that 9 times out of the 10 I can pull Monk's fat out of the fire.
There's not as much fat to pull out of the fire. What do I look like, Vito?
No.
Because I at least have a timetable of finishing projects.
Ha!
But putting all of that aside, since that is not what we're here to talk about, or the fact that we here in the temple believe in critiquing something for what it's trying to be, not what it should be. We are back once again with another round of disciplines in the world of Gubat-Banwa, which means another
Yes.
opportunity for me to gloriously mispronounce things.
He tries. He really does. I'm still here to help him when I can, but you can only do so much, people. You can only do so much.
Yeah. Last time around, we had the Apumkid Confederation, and both of us felt called out by a couple entries. Some more blatant than others. This time around, we have the Akai Sultanate. And while I don't think we're going to be called out as much, there are some glorious designs here. But our first entry is going to be the Beast Hunter, and since I need to recover my hands after doing that collapse 6 times in a row,
All right.
I'll let you open this one.
All right. We have the Beast Hunter. Martial artists of the perfect hunt, tamers of the divine wilds, seekers of truth, and hunters of gods. They're a witch-style gameplay. Okay, that's going to be interesting. And they're complex. Their complexity is complex. Their discipline attributes are 17 posture, 4 speed, 2 jump, 2 evade. They get a +1 bonus to ferocity and a +1 bonus to resilience. The weapons are spears, harpoons, bows, guns, crossbows, daggers, gunang, barong, and throwing knives. Their armors are shawls, breastplates, sarongs, pants, sandals, war jackets, and lamellars. Their discipline philosophy is hunting beast. Whenever you inflict bleeding, poison, or slowed, gain a thunderbolt. You can only gain a thunderbolt once per effect. So that's similar to the man who the cotton man who bullshits his way into everything from the previous the Confederacy disciplines. Except his was, I believe, confused, stunned, and I forget the last one. You always travel with a pack of hunting beasts, an avian, a behemoth, or behemoth, depending on how you want to pronounce it, people. I might just say behemoth because I like imitating Seth Seamtach and annoying all of you. And a stalker. When you start violence, you summon one of them to the battlefield adjacent to you. Your hunting beasts are considered allies. Keep track of them. When your hunting beast is defeated, they are removed from the battlefield. Avians are a size 1/2 with posture 12, speed 5 that's flying, a jump of 5, and evade of 2. They are immune to falling damage, and their melee attack is d6 plus your ferocity with a range of 1. Probably 1 up from themselves, then. Their defense is your parry. When they deal damage, they inflict bleeding on the target. If the target is already bleeding, the target suffers an additional d4 damage. Your behemoth is a size 2 creature with a posture of 20, a speed of 3, and a jump of 1, and an evade of 0. Its melee attack is d8 plus your ferocity with a range of 1, and its defenses are your resilience. Your stalker is size 1 with a posture 16, speed 4, jump 2, evade 1. Its melee attack is d8 plus your ferocity, range 1. Its defenses are your parry. When they deal damage, they inflict slowed on the target. Your commands are... Sick 'em. Spend a thunderbolt at any point during your rift to make your hunting beast perform their melee attack. Keep moving. Spend a thunderbolt at the start or end of any rift to make your hunting beast... Oh, it's in there twice. To make your hunting beast to make your hunting beast. But spend a thunderbolt at the start or end of any rift to make your hunting beast move equal to their speed. Let's go. Spend 2 thunderbolts to summon one of your other hunting beasts. You cannot have the same 2 hunting beast types. And then 4, lick your wounds. Spend 1 thunderbolt at the beginning of your rift to heal a hunting beast half of their maximum posture, and then bring them out to any tile adjacent to you if this brings them out if defeated.
Which does mean that even if they get knocked out, they're not completely out.
Yep.
I'm getting flashbacks to our Beastmaster job.
Kinda. There is some similarity, definitely, between what we're seeing here and what we've done with Beastmaster. But just because there's similarity doesn't mean it's the same.
No. It's more of that convergence.
Yeah, convergent creativity.
And in both cases, making something that's akin to a ranger with all the things that are shit about rangers.
Mm-hmm.
But their inflict violence is Mountain Dog Guardian, starting with Bleeding Edge. Strike through with a lacerating assault. It's 1 beat. Attack is a physical attack. Target is 1 enemy in range 3 through 8. It's a ranged attack, dealing d6 plus ferocity versus resilience. And it also inflicts bleeding. That'll be fun once we get to the violence chapter.
Ooh.
And we have the hunting polearm. It's 1 beat, physical attack. Target is 1 fighter in range 1 to 2. It's a ranged attack that deals d6 plus ferocity versus resilience, and slide the target 2 tiles. So we've got a bit of poke.
Yep. Well, it did say they like spears and harpoons, so.
And poisoned missile. Shoot a bow or bow gun imbued with snake poison. It's 1 beat, physical attack with the poison mantra as well. Target is 1 fighter, range 2 to 4. It's a ranged attack dealing d6 plus ferocity versus resilience. Then their enlightenment, Faithful Beast. You start violence with a beloved pet, another hunting companion, adjacent to you as an ally, position equal to your staggered value, speed 5, jump 3, evade 2, parry, and resilience equal to yours. However, they do not riff. When you start your riff, your pet may move their speed, tumbling. When an enemy within burst 2 of your pet suffers damage, they bounce up and attack as well, dealing plus d4 damage.
Nice.
And wait, do Hunting Beast and Faithful Beast stack? Because that could be very interesting if they do.
I think the pet is different. The Faithful Beast is different from your hunting beasts. I think it's 2 different things.
In that case, you actually have you could have 2 companions out once you get your enlightenment.
2 companions out at the beginning of your turn. Remember that you can use Let's Go to spend 2 Thunderbolts to get another hunting beast out.
Mm-hmm. So now I'm really getting flashbacks to our Beastmaster.
Yeah.
Oh. But then we have their liberation.
So do you want? Go ahead.
I will note that the way that this font is set up makes some words a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
So you take this one because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna botch that.
Manga Nangayam consummation.
Mm-hmm. So I'll take level 1. I'll give level 2 and 3 over to you. So level 1 is Hunt with the Pack. You signal violence and everyone leaps in. Persona 3, 4, and 5, is that you?
It's an all-out attack!
2 beats, physical attack. Targets 1 enemy in range 3 to 4. Ranged attack dealing d12 plus ferocity plus spirit versus parry. And all allies can make an attack against the target if they can. I was kidding earlier.
So, what I'd like to say here is that there'd be probably a slightly better way of phrasing that effect. All allies have an opportunity to make an attack against the target if they are able.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little more specific and doesn't sound as confusing of all allies can make an attack against the target if they can. Can you do the can?
We are not doing the can.
But I can do the can, Monk. Regardless, level 2 of the Liberation is Hunter's Quarry. You whistle and mark out the target of the final attack. It's 1 beat. It's an attack that deals poison. Targets 1 enemy within range 2 to 8. Does 2d12 damage plus ferocity versus resilience. And the effect is mark the target. While they're marked, all attacks against them deal plus 2d12 damage, gain plus 3 merit, and ignore combo breaker.
Oh, that's nasty.
Hey, Monk, you know who I'm going to put beside this marked target?
Oh.
A Death Dealer. Ignore Combo Breaker? Oh, I hope you didn't like having a Death Dealer right next to you, because now you're going to get comboed into Oblivion.
Mm-hmm.
And then the level 3 Liberation is Witch Dog Summon the Witch Dog. Immune to all damaged and force movement. At the start of your riff, flies 3 tiles, has Aura 3. When an enemy in the aura suffers an attack or an affliction, the Witch Dog lunges out and deals 2d6 true damage to them beforehand. Additionally, all fighters that try to enter or leave the aura become slowed, bleeding, and poisoned.
Mm-hmm.
You realize that this means that Liberation, anytime anyone goes into or out of the aura, is going to give you 3 Thunderbolts right there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Then we also have the start of the signature techniques. We have the Batum Trap. Throw out a trap that springs a net. It's 1 beat, targets a tile within range 1 or 2. The effect says, set up a Batum Trap in the target tile, a large net. When an enemy moves over it, moves or is moved into it, or into its adjacency, you may trigger the trap to spring a large net over the space, inflicting slowed on all fighters in burst 1 of the tile. The trap goes away after being triggered. You can only have 1 Batum Trap in the battlefield at a time. So, Monk.
Yeah?
I'm getting a serious case of Dijon mustard here. Why is this a Monster Hunter Rise Lancer using Palamute buddies? That's a net trap. That's just a fucking net trap. That is a pitfall trap in Monster Hunter. Come on now.
Oh, yeah.
Then we have the Balolong trap, which is throw out a trap that unleashes a snare. Oh no, this one's the pitfall trap, excuse me. 1 beat, 1 tile in range 1 to 2. Set up a Balolong trap in the target tile. When a fighter moves or is moved into it or its adjacency, you may trigger the trap to immediately stop the target's movement, end its movement, and then inflict the ensnared infliction. Yeah, that's an affliction we have.
Yes,
the trap goes away after being triggered. You can only have 1 Balolong trap in the battlefield at a time. And snared, you cannot move voluntarily, removed at the end of your next riff. All 4 of the signature techniques are traps, Monk.
Yes, they are. Which is the kind of thing that is far more in keeping with both the Beast Hunter here and the Ranger aesthetic in the way a lot of people think they should be working.
Mm-hmm.
And once again proving me right that the way to make a Ranger interesting is drop the damn spells.
Yep.
I do remember that being a bit contentious back when we did Level Up.
Mm-hmm. It was only contentious with 1 member of our party, though, Monk.
Yeah. He's too busy finishing an airship. I think Star Citizen will be out in 1.0 by the time that's finished.
Possibly.
Anyway,
for the third signature technique, set up a trap that triggers a pitfall straight into hardened bamboo stakes. Oh, it's a Punji trap, except it's called an Awang trap here. Mm-hmm. 1 beat, tile in range 1 to 2. It does all the same trap stuff of when they move near it or are moved into it or near it, you may trigger it. And then you make all tiles in burst 1 fall by 2 elevation, deal d10 damage to all fighters in the burst, and then inflict dazed on them. Trap goes away after being triggered, can only have 1 Awang trap in the battlefield at any time. And then finally, the Balatik trap. You reveal that you've installed a crossbow trap since the beginning of violence. 1 beat, 1 tile in range 1 to 2. Set up a Balatik trap in the tile, which then extends in a line 5 from the target tile. When an enemy moves or is moved into the line, you may trigger the trap to immediately inflict 4 plus ferocity plus your legend damage and bleeding to all fighters in the line. Trap goes away after triggered. You can only have 1 trap in the battlefield at any time.
The fact that it describes it as you've installed the thing since the fight started is giving me Keikaku vibes.
Yeah. Light Yagami, is that you?
Of course, if somebody wanted to get real creative, they could say that the trap is a tree opens up and then a crossbow starts shooting like it's a turret.
But that leads you to the martyr, Monk.
Yeah, and the design makes us feel called out.
You more so than me, I think. But yes.
Yeah, because the handle's large enough to be that kind of setup.
Well, no. I was thinking something a little more obvious.
Fuck off. Anyway, the martyr is the warriors of the Most High, sacrificial berserkers, those who fury, triumphing in adversity.
See, now I'm called out. By a lot.
Style is raider, complexity is complex. That's 2 complexes, interesting.
I have a feeling that going further through the disciplines, we're going to see more and more complex disciplines, and it's like the Gatusan disciplines are kind of like the disciplines you want to play around with when you first get Gubat-Banwa in your hands. But we'll have to see the rest of the disciplines before we can make that assessment.
Mm-hmm. But the discipline attributes are position 24, speed 4, jump 1, evade 0.
Posture.
Posture. And bonus of +2 spirit. Their weapons are Panabas, Gunlong, Barong, Kalis, Kampilan, Golak, and Pira. Armors are bare chest. What does berserker mean?
Bare shirt.
Silk jackets, white head wraps, white bahag, and bahag, and silk slippers. Their discipline philosophy is the Fury.
Of course.
When you make an attack while you're staggered, gain a thunderbolt afterwards. When you make a melee or area attack, you may spend any number of thunderbolts beforehand to add Fury plus d4 damage per thunderbolt spent to the attack. You suffer 1 true damage per Fury added to the attack. When you are defeated and suffer a wound, you may go into death trance afterwards until the end of violence, or until you are healed out of staggered. While in death trance, you are not defeated, but you gain 2 thunderbolts every start of your riff, and your Fury die rises to plus d6. If you suffer 5 wounds, you die immediately. You no longer suffer true damage for adding Fury to your attacks.
This is why they are the martyr.
Their inflict violence is Holy Moonblade. Wow, now we're really getting called out.
FromSoft, is that you?
And I know some might say, what from the Moonlight Swords in the Souls games? No, the Moonlight Sword is something that's been there since day one.
Yeah, it's been all the way back in what was it
Kingsfield.
Kingsfield, yeah, Kingsfield. I was trying to remember the second word. I'm like, it's not the other one, because that one's a point and click adventure series that's very, very trolly. But I would also like to point out that there is a Moonlight Greatsword in this picture, Monk.
Yeah.
Anyone else who could see the splash art on our fun little thing? The guy down there with the giant crescent blade that's glowing blue flames, it's the Moonlight Greatsword by any other name.
Mm-hmm.
So, there you go.
Yeah. But this thing isn't fucking even trying. The first part of inflict violence is slay the dragon.
Ooh.
1 beat, attack, physical, targets 1 adjacent enemy. It's a melee attack that deals 1d8 plus spirit versus parry. Effect may throw the target 2 tiles. If they collide, inflict dazed.
But I like the little the little flavor text for Slay the Dragon. You burst forward and seize your adversary like Jairus Akai seizing the moon-eating dragon.
Not to say, Bloodborne, is that you?
Something like that.
See, then Crescent Blade. You slash in the shape of the moon with your weapon. Wield the moon's holy blade, which is you. You, this is your strength. Let Goddess wield you and bring the final triumph of victory. Who else could it be but you? With this internalization, you wield the holy blade of tenacity, and nothing shall ever stop your advance. It's 1 beat, a physical attack. All enemies in line 2. 1d10 plus spirit versus parry.
An area attack, too.
And third is Whirling Lunacy.
Spin to win!
You strike on all sides with unerring speed. 1 beat, physical attack. Targets all fighters in burst 1. Is d6 plus spirit versus parry. Spin to win right out of the gate. What a concept. No, I'm not letting that go.
Hey. But okay, so I'm going to read this sidebar just because it goes into all caps at some point, and I need to read it.
Yes, you do.
Hold on, let me give me a second. Wanted to clear the pipes and make sure everything was good to go. The martyr rejoices in the glory of combat. You ready your weapon and engage in violence. Your wounds only make you stronger. In violence you are born, and in violence you will perish. Your fury is a fire that cannot be extinguished. It shines in the void after the end of creation. Remember this, martyr. When peace is achieved, you will cease to exist. Let us achieve bliss then. It had to be done. It had to be done. The enlightenment of the martyr is divine striving. I think that's divine striving. Hold on. Let me just zoom in to see if that... Yeah, that's supposed to be an eye. It's just the gap between the dot and the eye is actually covered up by the V's little arm coming off of it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a divine striving. When you make an attack, you can dive deeper into the fury and run amok afterwards. Running amok is a blessing that lasts until you end a riff and you haven't made an attack during that riff. While amok, all your melee attacks gain plus d10 and you gain plus 1 to your speed. However, all attacks against you gain deal. It's just, again, typo. Gain plus d6 damage. So you do more damage, but you take more damage because you're eschewing all of your defense. That makes perfect fucking sense for fucking martyr after all.
Yeah, as referenced in Dogma, the downside of being a martyr is that you have to die.
Yep. Back when Kevin Smith was funny. Nice. The next is the Liberation Glorious Wrath. Level 1, Raiments of Death. With the taste of blood, the divine fury fills your body in an ecstasy of promise and paradise. God damn, I love how poetic some of this is. Mm-hmm. It's a 1 beat. It's an attack that has Gleam Mantra. The target is 1 adjacent fighter. The melee attack is 3d12 plus spirit versus parry. The effect is you gain Glorious Wrath until the end of violence. And Glorious Wrath is, you gain merit on all your melee attacks. When an enemy attacks you, deal ferocity damage back at them beforehand. You could kill somebody before they can hit you, monk. I'm going to come up and attack you. Ferocity damage. Oh shit, that's enough to kill me.
It's adding a Thorns effect straight out of Diablo.
No, because for Thorns to go off, you have to get hit first. This is before you get hit and take damage. This is preemptive Thorns.
Spikes,
Thorns, whatever we want to call it. I'm just going to call this reverse Uno card, the aura.
That will work.
Yeah.
So...
Well, Level 2 of the liberation is Wrath of God and Goddess. You are engulfed with the burning flames in a corona of the target of your divine fury and justice. It's 1 beat. It's an attack with Gleam Mantra. The target is 1 adjacent fighter. It does 5d12 plus spirit versus parry. And once again gives you glorious wrath until the end of violence. And then you may fly your speed and then inflict violence. So now you fly. That's nice. Then
Fly
level 3
or
is...
jump good.
I think in this case they literally mean flights, as in what we see in wuxia and wire fighting kung fu movies, Monk.
Yeah, but I had to make the joke.
Of course. Samurai Jack is never not a good call.
Mm-hmm.
Or is... Yeah, never not a good call. Level 3, Road to Lunar Heaven. Wreathed in the silvers of paradise, you end all things that dare face you. 1 beat attack with Gleam Mantra. A special, you must be staggered or defeated to use this. Remember that staggered is once you've taken up to half your posture and damage.
Mm-hmm.
Target all enemies in Blast 5. So it's a area attack that in Blast 5 that does 7d12 plus ferocity plus spirit damage versus parry. There's also an additional effect. You may choose to make yourself an offering to Goddess. If you do, the target suffers plus 12d12 damage. If this attack kills the target, you also die and are brought up to your paradise. It's another... I mean, this one was in the name.
Mm-hmm.
The headhunter being able to kill himself by cutting off his own head was weird. This kind of just makes sense.
Yeah, this is a nuke option, because that is... If you do that, that would be 19 D12s.
19 D12 to every enemy in Blast 5.
Pretty much.
It says the target, but I think that's a typo or an artifact, because the target says all enemies in Blast 5. Or maybe when it says if you do, the target suffers this, it means just the target of the attack, and the target says all enemies in Blast 5, so it automatically carries through. I can see that being the logic.
Mm-hmm. It's a nuke.
But I'll leave the signature techniques to you, Monk.
Alright, first one is Crescent Cleaving the Moon. It is 1 beat, move your speed, tumbling. You must move at least 3 tiles away from your original position. Otherwise, your movement ends and you become wide open. And then, after the movement, you may inflict violence. Dodge roll.
Dodge roll that allows you to inflict violence right after, all for the cost of 1 beat.
Mm-hmm. Then we have, for the second signature technique, Faith Unending. It's 1 beat, attack with the Gleam Mantra. Targets 1 adjacent fighter, deals D8 plus spirit versus parry. Also taunt the target until the end of your next riff.
Hooray!
And I do want to read the flavor text for this one. The lunar goddess has seen it fit for you to strive. Coat yourself in the holy oils. Battle is always death. Battle is always death. I had to do it twice. Let out your rage, mighty martyr. The lunar palace upon the moon beckons you. If you are to fall, then you shall bring all those around you with you. You clad yourself in the raiments of death, white to reach the moon goddess's eternal blissful palace. Breathe now, breathe. If it be your time, then it is your time. Be not afraid, be not afraid. Who are they to say that your faith rage is unjustified? This world is sundered and torn. Break it even further. And in so doing, bring light to bear. This is the principle of fury. Kill all things indiscriminately to attain true harmony. Remember, loved one, your rage is not simply anger, wrath, it is justice. Goddess's vengeance, holy moon's striving. You fulfill the purpose of your life in this. Submit wholly to the moon gleam.
Submit wholly to the moon gleam. I like that last line.
Mm-hmm. See, then the third technique is menacing a monk. Menacing a monk, sorry.
Ha!
That's one
a
hell of a
Freudian slip. Menacing a monk.
I'm probably gonna add that in. If I run Perfect Draw, I'm probably gonna add that as a card.
That would be fucking hilarious.
Oh, have it be the equivalent of what happens when the usual Serene Monk decides he's about McFucking had it.
Yep. Also, Monk, the reason that they repeated "Battle is always death" twice is a lot of these flavor texts are supposed to be holy mantras of whatever discipline you're looking at.
Fair.
So, as you and I both know, having actually seen Buddhists and practiced a little Buddhism ourselves, mantras get repetitive because they're supposed to help you focus.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, Menacing Amok. 1 beat, attack, physical, has the Flurry tag. Target is all fighters in Blast 3. Deals D12 plus Spirit versus Parry. Inflict Debilitated on the target as well. If this attack brings them to stagger, also inflict Wide Open. And remember, Flurry, you can spend another beat to make yourself and all allies in Burst 2 of you strengthened, and your next attack gains merit.
Nice.
And the final one for this is Juru Pakal. It's 1 beat, an attack with the Gleam mantra. Targets 1 adjacent fighter, deals D12 plus Spirit versus Parry. Inflict the Crushed Affliction on the target until after they suffer an attack. And crushed, their parry becomes 0.
So that you can use Juru Pakal to set up for some of your other shit. Or even set up your friends.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to point out the flavor text at the top for this one, though. You breathe out, and smokeless pale flame erupts from your eyes and mouth, blessing and cleansing and smelting your weapon. Then you strike with a weapon of moonlight. Can I just say that I really like the aesthetic of the martyr? The whole thing about being this guy who goes in, takes hits like nobody's business, gets a more ferocious near death, and will take you with him when he's about to go. It's all the Berserker. It is all, like, if you take this guy, compare him to both the idea of a Berserker from ancient Persia and a Berserker from ancient Norway, or, the ancient Norse, they all match up. A warrior that is essentially in a race with death.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing chicken with death, and they usually win.
Yeah, looking at the Grim Reaper and going, nah, I'd win.
Exactly. Buddy, today I won the bet again. I'm gonna keep going now. Okay, but one of these days I'm gonna win it all back. Well, one of these days, but that's when I'm too old and frail to fight anymore. Fuck you. But with that, we move on to the Sarimanok Knight, which looks to be riding a giant peacock? Chicken peacock. It has the waddle of a chicken and the comb of a rooster.
Mm-hmm.
But it also has a peacock's tail. If there are chickens with colorful tails, give me a second. There are chicken with some really colorful plumage. So maybe you're just riding a giant chicken. Which, you know what? That's fine by me. They're still dinosaurs. Chickens are still dinosaurs. Fuck you all. You're a dinosaur knight. That's all I'm going to say. But the Sarimanok Knight, emblazoned chevaliers of the throne, guardians of nature and stewards of the divine wilds. They are the tank types, the sentinels, and their complexity is very complex. It's been a long time since we've seen very complex.
Mm-hmm.
Their discipline attributes: posture of 24, speed of 4, jump of 1, evade of 1, bonuses of +1 parry, +1 resilience. Makes sense for a tank. Their weapons are halberds, pikes, lances, spears, kampilan, I think it's bolo. Hold on, let me zoom in and make sure those are O's. Yep, that's bolo. Pira and janap. Their armors are head wraps, cuirasses, tassets, pants, metal boots, peaked helmets, elephant hide breastplates. And their discipline philosophy is heavenly raptor smites. I mean, they are riding a giant bird. So, gain a thunderbolt when you taunt at least one target, once per every instance of taunting. Ergo, if an effect lets you taunt multiple targets, you only gain thunderbolt once. You get Swarga Smite. When an enemy you've taunted makes an attack, spend a thunderbolt to immediately deal d8 damage to them afterwards. If the attack is against you, deal 10d10 damage instead. Let me say it again. If this attack is against you, deal d10 damage instead. Then you have Nerak Smite. When an enemy you've taunted moves, you may spend a thunderbolt to pull them up to ferocity tiles and inflict slow damage. Get over here! God damn it. Then you have Keen Tongue Smite. When you deal damage to an enemy, spend a thunderbolt to have their defenses afterwards until the end of their next riff. It's having both parry and resilience, Monk.
Mm-hmm.
Their inflict violence is Arrows of Heaven. We have Heavenly Pana. Shoot with a bow of iridescence. One beat uses soul for attack. Target is one enemy within range 2 to 3. Ranged attack of d6 plus ferocity versus parry. And the effect is inflict taunt on the target indefinitely. I'm sorry, what? You're telling me that this tank class has the ability to just be like, you are taunted me until the end of violence. Or until somebody else taunts you and overrides mine. Okay. Then we have Royal Budjak. Strike with a royal spear, tasseled with bells strung together with the hair of your enemies. Okay. Once again, death trophies. Pretty common thing throughout cultures throughout history. It's one beat and it's a physical attack. It targets one or two enemies in line 2. Does d4 plus ferocity versus parry, and it inflicts demerit on the target's next attack. Okay. I see how this is going to go. We have Shooting Star Crescent. Streak across the night sky like a comet, then strike down. This is one beat and attack that has the Gleam mantra. The effect is fly 2 tiles and then make the following attack. Target one adjacent enemy, melee attack of d6 plus ferocity versus parry.
I am getting Paladin vibes. And a little bit of Chocobo Knight.
I am getting Knight on horseback for sure. Or, well, in this case, Knight on chickenback, but still.
Yeah, this is very much the born in the saddle archetype.
And if anyone says that isn't a chicken, it's a chicken. It has a chicken's comb. It has a chicken's waddle. It has... The only real thing that isn't chicken is that beak being that long. But you know what? I'll give it artistic license because this is a game about fantasy. And the pretty feathers. Yeah, that's a chicken's tail for sure. Mm-hmm. It's just, peacock colors on a chicken's tail.
Yep. Then we have the Enlightenment. Shah Vayu's Vengeance. When you rush, you fly for the duration of the movement. When a fighter you have taunted makes an attack, you can cleanse the taunted beforehand to deal d12 true damage to them.
Oof.
And then you can taunt them all over again. So, Liberation, Sultan Deva Bagyu's Lance. Sorry, Dewa Bagyu's. The
Sultan Dewa Bagyu's Lance.
And level 1 is of the same name. It's a 1-beat attack that has the Fire and Gleam mantras. Target all enemies in line 10. Deals 46 plus ferocity versus resilience. All targets suffer the skewered condition until the end of their next riff. Skewered, when you start your riff skewered, suffer 2d6 damage, and then you cannot move voluntarily.
So, Sultan Dewa Bagyu's Lance is just, I'm going to stab everybody on the tip of my lance and carry them for a turn.
It really is born in the saddle.
Yup.
Level 2 is Sultan Dewa Bagu's Holy Bow. It's one beat, attack using Fire and Gleam. Target all enemies in Burst 5. Oh god, it's a rain of arrows. Oh. Area attack dealing 4d6 plus ferocity versus resilience. And all targets are marked indefinitely. While marked, all of their attacks that don't include you suffer +3 demerit.
Jesus.
At any time, you can consume a mark to do 2d6 plus spirit damage to them. And level 3 is Sultan Dewa Bagu's Sacred Beam.
This is like the Pope beam where he blesses entire rows of the congregation.
It's one beat, is an attack that uses the Fire and Gleam mantra. Target all enemies in Burst 5.
Again.
Does 4d6 plus ferocity versus resilience. And all targets are marked indefinitely. While marked, all their attacks that don't include you suffer +3 demerit. At any time, you can consume a mark to do 2d6 plus spirit damage to them. While your mark is within Burst 5 of you, anytime they make an attack that does not include you, you may make the following attack against them. Ranged attack 3d6 plus spirit versus resilience.
It's an upgrade to level 2 that makes it so that anyone who's around you that isn't attacking you and is trying to attack your allies automatically gets retribution in the form of what's essentially a homing laser.
You know what? I take it back. This isn't Paladin. This is Battle Mind. Back in the 4E days, Battle Mind was objectively the best tank.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the other tanks would just penalize attacks when the marked target was targeting somebody else. Battle Minds actively harmed enemies that didn't target them. And I had a busted ass build wielding a shield in Kopesh.
I can see that. I just love the fact that at level 3, you're like, okay, not only have I all hit you with the holy bow, but now that you're marked, if you aren't attacking me, if you're attacking one of my friends at all, you also get this auto laser turret. What? Just try it. Swings it, friend. Zoff! Oh, you turned into ashes? Sorry.
But then we have these signature techniques. I'll let you take that.
Muduga's Budjak. You summon Flurious Winds with your weapon and Skewer. One beat and attack using the Wind mantra. Target is 1 or 2 enemies in line 3. Area attack is D4 plus Ferocity versus Parry. You inflict Cutting Winds on the target. And Cutting Winds, when you suffer an attack, you suffer an additional 3d4 damage, and then cleanse the affliction afterwards. So you set them up to take more damage the next time.
And remember, if it's a taunted enemy, you can expend that taunt to make them suffer even more damage.
Exactly. Then we have Monsoon Mantle. You summon winds to storm about you, whirling, destroying projectiles. It's 1 beat, and this is a stance that targets the self. You take on the Whirlwind Mantle stance until the end of your next riff, and in Whirlwind Mantle stance, you have +1 evade against all range attacks against you. Anytime a fighter starts their riff and burst one of you while in the stance, slide them 1 tile or throw them 3 tiles. Slide and throw are 2 different things, and this actually shows it. Like, we figured that was the case, but, slide and throw were never mentioned interchangeably in the same technique anywhere. Now they are, and now we know for sure they're 2 different things.
Yep.
Then we have the third technique, Manaul Angers the Sky. You strike with a weapon imbued with the spirit of wrath and provocation. Anger blossoms from the target's heart, like how Manaul angered the sky. It is a break. Haven't we basically, looking at these, the breaks are basically counterattacks or reactions.
Pretty much.
The trigger is, an enemy makes an attack within burst 3 of you. The effect is, before the attack, pull the target up to 2 tiles and then taunt them until the end of their next riff. If they're already taunted, deal D8 damage instead.
And depending on the setup, and this is something I learned could be abused with the Dragoon in the FF14 TTRPG, Depending on the type of attack that they're making, if they're getting pulled when they're making the attack, they may end up wasting their attack in the process.
Yep. And then we finally have the last of the 4 techniques. Kartike's arrow. With a breath, you fire an arrow or javelin. Oh, now we're back to Monster Hunter. Or strike with a halberd of incandescent fulgur. Fulgur. Wait a minute. Incandescent fulgur. That's lightning, by the way. Mm-hmm. This is 1 beat. It's an attack that uses the Gleam and Fire mantras. Is Gleam basically lightning then? I don't know. Target is 1 fighter in range 3 to 6. It's a ranged attack that deals D8 plus ferocity versus parry. And the effect is until the end of their next riff, the next time they make an attack, teleport them 5 tiles afterward. This is not Cold Steel. We can't make the Cold Steel joke.
Inverse Cold Steel? Steel Cold?
This is just straight up chaos control. So it's just Shadow. It's just being Shadow.
But next, with a very nice instrument, one that I think more bards should be using instead of using a lute for the umpteenth time, we have the Strife Singer. Singers of the dirge of Gubat-Banwa, exalters of healing through violence, chanters of the sorrow song, the chorus that watches the sword isles. Their style is medium, their complexity is average. Their attributes are position 22, speed of 3, postures. I don't know why I keep saying position. Their jump is 2, their evade is 1, and they gain a +2 bonus to resilience. Their weapons are instruments, knives, kudyapi, angyong, tautali, zither, bamboo flute, nose flute. Their armor are head wraps, sashes, sarong, silk jackets, peruka, malong, and skirts. Their discipline philosophy is Singer of Sorrows. When you end your riff with at least 2 plus allies within your singing aura, gain a Thunderbolt. You are constantly singing, constantly within performing your aria. You rouse your allies, you rouse them to glory. This is your singing aura 4. So then, Aria of the Soul. At any point during your riff, you may spend a Thunderbolt to heal yourself or an ally in your singing aura by D6 plus resilience. Then slide the target healed by 1. Gimbal Resonance. When an ally in your aura suffers an attack, you may spend a Thunderbolt to let them inflict violence against their attacker afterwards. And Kulintang Movement. At the start of your or an ally's riff in your singing aura, you may spend a Thunderbolt to let them move 4 tiles, tumbling.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And then their Inflict Violence, Thundering Instruments. First we have the Kudyapi Strum. It's 1 beat, attack with the Wind Mantra. Target is 1 fighter in range 3. It's a ranged attack that inflicts D6 plus Spirit versus Resilience. And it inflicts Debilitated on the target, and then 1 ally in your singing aura may move 1 tile for free. Then we have Subduing Resonance.
No, that's Subing Resonance.
Subing, sorry. It's 1 beat, attack with the Soul Mantra. Targets 1 fighter in your singing aura. Ranged attack that deals D6 plus Spirit versus Resilience. And all allies in your singing aura gain block plus D4.
Nice.
And third of your Inflict Violence is Trill Soundstrike, which is 1 beat, and it's a physical attack. Targets 1 adjacent fighter, deals D8 plus Spirit versus Resilience, and all allies in your singing aura gain Strengthened.
So all of your inflict violences are not only going to actually do damage, but actually affect people who are around you. I like the fact that so long as someone's within four, within your singing aura 4, there are all these things you can do for them, and they help you generate thunderbolts.
Yep.
But with that, we get to the Enlightenment Lost Song of the Raja. When you gain a blessing, also give that blessing to all allies in burst 3 of you. When you are healed, give half of that healing to all allies in burst 3 of you. And when you are staggered for the first time in combat, give all allies in the battlefield protect. That is that's actually pretty damn powerful for what it looks like. But with that, we get to the Liberation, which is the Conquering King Vesper. Level 1 is Rousing Battle Song of Future War. The Song of Raja Raya is lost now, no doubt a sad consequence of his great ambition. 2 beats targets all allies in the battlefield. Give all allies in the battlefield 2d12 plus resilience block, and then they each gain a d12, which they can add to any attack or defense. That's pretty nice. Then we have the Breaking Sorrow Song of Past Violence. His mission and his achievements were liable to make him the most famous of all ancestors. He was the conquering giant king, the one who will seize heaven's thunderclaps, who will destroy the gates of the sky and seize Jamiyun Kulis's thunderbolt. It is said that he succeeded, but that he also failed, the truth forgotten. 1 beat targets all allies in the battlefield. The effect is the entire battlefield becomes a performance field. And the performance field is whenever you or an ally starts their riff in the performance field, they may heal 1/4 of their posture, and then they gain strengthened, protect, and hastened. And finally, we have level 3, Conquering King Vesper of Victory and Enlightenment. Some say that the conquering giant king still walks this world, or that his corpse can be found within the deep cavern complexes that can be found near the mountain of Tauha, where the Grand Rajanate of Gatusan stakes its center. 2 beats targets all allies on the battlefield, and the effect is all targets gain +2 beats on their next riff. Nice.
This of the instrument adjacent disciplines, this is the one that feels the most like the classic bard.
Yeah.
See, then we have the signature techniques. First, Litany of the Porcelain Lady. You utter a song of purity, reverberating with porcelain daintiness. It's 1 beat, say stance, target self. Teleport 1, then you start singing the Litany of the Porcelain Lady stance until the end of your next riff. The litany does... Your speed becomes 2. All allies in burst 3 of you add your resilience to their defenses. Interesting. And that's the second technique is Pain to the Unexalted. You sing a song of remembrance and you ring the bells of violence. I don't want to fight your shadow. It's 1 beat, target is the field, target is your tile. A burst 1 pain to the unexalted field reverberates from the target tile until the end of your next riff. And that effect is all allies in this field have +1 to their evade. Whenever an ally starts their riff in this field, they gain strengthened. And maintain, spend 1 beat to keep the field up until the end of your next riff. Move the field center to your tile if you wish. Then we have the third signature technique, Suwarga Kulintang. You play a quick chorus with your instrument of choice, letting the sound waves thunder and suture the resonant Akash. It's a field that's 1 beat. Target is burst 1 in range 2 to 4. Heal all allies in the burst by d6 plus resilience and then slide them 1. Then summon a Kulintang field in the burst until the end of your next riff. Kulintang field, all allies that start in the field gain d8 plus 2, heal d8 plus 2, and gain plus d4 to all defenses until the end of their next riff. and you can spend a beat to maintain this field. And when you do so, you heal all allies by D12. Which means if you keep maintaining it, you have 2 opportunities per turn to heal allies.
Yep.
So then we have 7 Bulawan Agung. I think.
Agung.
Yep. You sing a song of rapturous sorrow, of the truth of the tremendous violence of reality, the all-consuming demon of power. You ring your bells, you chant the ululations and grievances, and you end it with a lonely flute note. It's 2 beats and has the field tag. Target is a burst 2 in range 2 to 4. Summon a War Agnug field in the burst until the end of your next riff, which all fighters in the field only have line of sight to other fighters in the field. When fighters in the field make attacks against other fighters in the field, they may deal an additional D12 damage. Spend 1 beat to maintain this field until the end of your next riff and deal D12 damage to all enemies in the field.
Fun? That's very fun.
Mm-hmm. It's forcing a duel.
Yep. But with that, we get to our final discipline of the Akai Sultanate. Another rider, it looks like, except a much different rider than our previous one. The Swordfish Cavalier. Shaman knights of the seas and rivers, of the swordfish, warriors that medium the tides of the sea. The style is sharpshooter, and the complexity is complex. And the discipline attributes are Aposture of 18, Speed of 4, Jump of 1, Evade of 1, with a +1 bonus to parry and a +1 bonus to spirit. The weapons are bows, guns, crossbows, spears, lances, tridents, axes, and hammers. The armor are silk jackets, sashes, robes, sarongs, malangs, pants, sarouels, head wraps, vests, and long tunics. Their discipline philosophy is the Sea Wind Rider. When you make an attack against a doused fighter, gain a Thunderbolt afterward once per attack. Additionally, you float over shallow water and deep water, meaning you are immune to their penalties. Nice. Some things you can do with your philosophies are Ratusa Mutera's Decree. When you make an area attack, you may spend a Thunderbolt beforehand to increase the area pattern size by 1, and increase their die size to D8 if it is lower than D8. Okay, that's evil. Increase the pattern size and increase the die size for 1 Thunderbolt? Hell yeah. Then we have the Margot Satubig Privilege. When you make an attack while in water terrain, spend a Thunderbolt beforehand to add +2 merit to that attack. And then we have Salagunting's Ideal. At the start of your riff, you may spend 1 Thunderbolt to turn a burst 1 in range 2 turn a burst 1 in range 2 to 4 into shallow water. You can create terrain with this motherfucker?
Well, they're all about fighting in water, and if you didn't have stuff like this, I would have called the quality into question. Because there's plenty of times where you can have these kind of things set up, but they're very specific to certain types of terrain. Like, I know I keep picking on the typical ranger, but it's had this problem for decades, so I'm going to keep making the joke.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm good in the forest. We're doing a campaign where you're in deserts. Well,
yep.
Shit.
Yep.
Whereas here's like, I'm good in the water. Wait, there's no water here? I'll make some.
Well, what's really fun is Inflict Violence, Knight of the Sea. The very first thing called Wave Dash. I wonder how much melee they played. You turn into water and burst through the battlefield. It costs is 1 beat. The effect is you turn into a water jet, move your speed, tumbling. Any enemy you tumble through is doused. If you move through or end your movement in a water terrain tile, douse all enemies adjacent to that water tile.
Ooh.
So not only do you douse enemies so that you can then later attack them and get thunderbolts, you use your thunderbolts to create water so that enemies have to move through that water and go through these shallow water penalties. And you can then use your wave dash again to douse enemies on the way back to that water tile you just created, end in the water tile and douse literally everybody else around you. Mm-hmm. I see the gameplay loop already.
Yeah, and it involves one of your favorite memes.
Yep. But we then have Salagunting Cuts the Sea. You strike with your weapon, cleaving a blade of salt water. It's a one beat, an attack that uses the water mantra, targets all enemies in line 4, and does D4 plus spirit versus parry. Then we have Ayir Udyong. Shoot your bow or gun. Shoot with your bow or gun a missile of pure cutting water. It's one beat, one attack with the water mantra. Target is one fighter in range 3 to 5. Ranged attack just does D6 spirit versus parry.
Mm-hmm. And then we have the Enlightenment. Seafoam Maverick. You can use any water terrain on the battlefield as an origin point for all of your ranged and area attacks. Additionally, all your attacks against doused fighters gain merit and become unavoidable.
So, Monk, now we know the further gameplay loop as you get higher in your levels. Once you've unlocked your Enlightenment, your entire point is to wave dash and douse a bunch of enemies so that you can then attack them to get Thunderbolts. Use Thunderbolts to make areas of shallow water so that now you don't have to move anymore to fucking shoot anybody. But not only that, you still want to move because you want to douse people, because if they're doused, you get merit and unavoidable on your attacks. Mm-hmm. It's all about moving and dousing people so that you get Thunderbolts to create water spots to move to douse more people to create more Thunderbolts. More water, more dowsing, more water. More dowsing, more damage, which just tightens the loop. Thank you, Russian Badger, by the way. Anyone who doesn't get that one, look up Infinite Dopamine Loop. You'll get it. This whole thing is just meant to do... Monk, you realize that this is a sharpshooter that's meant to always keep moving? You know, like a real fucking sniper? Mm-hmm. And all the water you're creating just becomes origin points for any and all of your attacks. It's fucking busted.
I'd imagine it'd be even worse in confined area where you could easily flood after a few rounds, have the entire floor flooded.
Yep, a bunch of shallow water. Fuck you all have penalties except for me.
This also means you could always attack from the back. And I'm thinking of that whole line of, you'd shoot a man in the back. Well, it's the safest way, isn't it?
The Liberation then, Monk?
Mm-hmm. So Liberation is True Deluge. And level 1 is Diluvial form. In the ancient days, there was a great deluge that brought all the sword isles underwater. It's one beat. You and your Balu turn into beings of pure, rushing water. Every start of your riff, you may move your speed for free, tumbling, dousing any enemies you move through. You may grant any attack you perform the water mantra. As if they didn't have water as it was.
So Liberation level 1 basically makes your wave dash permanent.
Mm-hmm. Level 2. Ratsumetra floods the world.
Ratusa
Mutera. In the ancient days, there was a great deluge that brought all the sword isles underwater. The deluge was said to be the wrath of Goddess for all the cruelty in the world. It's one beat. It's a water mantra attack. Targets all enemies in blast 10. Deals 12 plus spirit versus parry, and then D10 against any enemy that is already doused or chilled.
Of course.
And you may teleport to any tile in the blast.
I'm not saying it.
But you're thinking it.
I'm not saying it.
But you're thinking it.
Doesn't matter, I'm still not saying it.
And level 3 is Samrasat, Rausumatara's kingdom.
Ratusamatera.
Unfortunately, their punishment did not end the cycles of violence. It was said that this deluge was what buried the great ancient continent of Samrasat under the sea. It's one beat, targets all enemies in burst 20. Is 2d12 plus 12 plus spirit versus parry, plus d10 against any enemy already doused or chilled. In fact, the entire battlefield becomes flooded, which overwrites any previous weather effect. And flooded, all movement for enemies costs plus 2 speed. All enemies become vulnerable to water, lightning, and cold attacks. All enemies trying to make attacks suffer plus 2 demerit. What the fuck?
Hey, Monk.
Yeah?
Remember when I said it's all about more water, more doused, more water, more damage, and the loop gets tighter?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the culmination of all that.
Yeah. And because of all the water that's going to be around,
yeah.
Remember, if you've got enlightenment, any water terrain has your origin point.
If the entire battlefield is flooded, the entire battlefield, everywhere is an origin point for damage. Everywhere.
At this point, this isn't a sniper. This is carpet bombing.
If only you could shoot from every tile at once. That would be kind of funny, but also very overpowered.
Like this isn't already, and keep in mind there were some earlier effects to let your AoEs be even bigger.
Yep.
But
next we get to the special, the signature techniques. First we have the Corsair Fusillade. Utter a prayer and a ritual hand sign, then shoot a javelin of shearing water. This is one beat. It's an attack using the cold mantra instead. One enemy in range 2 to 4 does d6 plus spirit versus parry. If the target is already chilled, deal another plus d4 damage. The effect is deal d6 damage to all enemies adjacent to the target, and also douse them.
So we're back.
We're dousing more water, more dousing, more damage, and the loop only gets tighter. Yes, I know I reversed it this time, but because douse was here first. Anyway.
Oh, yes.
So it's a whole, hey, you, in the middle of a pack of enemies, yes? I shoot you specifically, but now all your friends are wet, too. Don't worry, I'll get to you guys later. The second signature technique is Dagatlantaka. Utter a prayer and brandish a swivel gun, and then unleash a Pelagic Blast. It's one beat attack with the water mantra. All fighters in Blast 3. D8 plus Spirit versus Resilience. If the target is already doused, deal plus D4 damage. The effect is push yourself 3 tiles away from the blast. You're supposed to use this when somebody accidentally closes in on you.
Yep.
You're like, oh, fuck you, get away from me. Boom! Oh, I'll just get away from you. By the way, you're all covered in water now, so take some more damage. Then we have Sea Sword Summons. You whistle, the sound ripping through and resonating. After a beat, Baloo erupts from all about you, skewering all enemies. It's one beat and attack with the water mantra. All enemies in range 2 to 4 with a burst 1. The area attack is D8 plus Spirit versus parry. The effect is inflict bleeding and leave behind a flying Baloo field in the burst until the end of your next riff. The flying Baloo field, any enemy that starts and ends their riff in the field suffers D4 damage, which cannot be reduced in any way. And to maintain, you can spend one beat to maintain the field. Immediately inflict D4 damage against all enemies in the field. Nice. Then finally, Sea Grasps the Moon. You perform the rituals and ring the kettlebells. You summon the moon into the battlefield. It costs 2 beats. It's an attack that uses the water mantra. Target is all enemies in range 3 to 5 burst 1. The area attack is D8 plus spirit versus resilience. The effect is summon the moon into a tile of range 3 to 5. The moon. The moon is a size 1 object, but is indestructible. When an enemy starts their riff in burst 3 of the moon deals D6 damage to them and chills them. If they're already chilled, deal plus D4 damage. I've summoned the moon herself to kill you. There we go. Yep. I really like the Akai Sultanate. I really like their classes.
I'd say all but one of them was complex, but with some of the classes, I'm calling into question what constitutes complex, especially with the martyr.
I think it might have to do with how many steps are in the gameplay loop and how many different things you have to choose from within those steps. Like we see here, I'm pretty sure this sharpshooter, the Swordfish Cavalier, was rated as complex, right?
Yes.
We can see here that the complexity is you need to douse people so you can gather thunderbolts, so you can make water tiles, so that you can douse more people to do more stuff with your kit. Mm-hmm. The complexity here is likely the setup, but again, once again, imitating Russian Badger's infinite dopamine loop. More water, more dowsing, more water, more damage, which only makes the loot tighter.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Strife Singer is listed as average complexity.
And I think the reason for that is the Strife Singer's setup is just be next to your friends.
Mm-hmm. Or have your friends. Actually, the best way to describe the Strife Singer, huddle.
Exactly. You don't have to huddle very much though. It does say Aura 4, and I'm assuming Aura 4 goes out four tiles in every direction.
Yep.
And so, I mean, we'll see that more when we get to the violence chapter, but that means that having your friends around you, sure, that within 4 seems like it's close. But if you're moving as a unit anyway, that's kind of maintained in most cases. Mm-hmm. And because of that, your Strife Singer's effects are going to be going off all the time. They're going to be generating thunderbolts all the time, and they're just going to be able to do basically anything they want, fairly quickly and easily. As they were a medium, right? They were a medium and not a witch.
Yeah, medium style and average complexity.
Yeah. What we've seen of mediums, for the most part, and I do admit there are exceptions to every archetype that we've seen so far, the mediums are generally support. What that support entails can include a lot of damage, but they're generally support. They buff allies, debuff enemies, do healing, and they tend to do it in a pretty large field, too. So the reason I think it says average complexity is while there is going to be some stuff like you have to move around to make sure you can cover a lot of people, and you have a lot of choices that are really different from each other that you need to make snap decisions about. It's not like the Martyr, whose whole setup is playing that dance with death. You want to stay almost entirely in staggered mode after you get to a certain fame, mm-hmm. and that way you can maintain your running amok and everything else. Hell, you may even want to go into defeated to get a wound and get back up, so that you have the fucking death trance going. There's a lot of stuff there that really does make the Martyr a little bit more like tactically complex. How are you going to dance that line? I don't know. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, they said that the Chicken Knight, I'm not calling it by its real name, it's Chicken. The Chicken Knight was very complex, but I think that one's more due to the different ranges you have and the different AoEs and such. I don't know. I don't know what decides the complexity of a discipline. That may be something that Wux can answer for us if he ever gets back to us about anything.
Mm-hmm. I will admit of the five for the Sultanate, the one that I'd be most likely to take is the Knight.
The Chicken Knight.
Yep.
I can see you with the Chicken Knight. I'm gonna say I'm stuck between the Beastmaster and the Martyr.
You're going with Martyr.
I'm probably going with Martyr. This is true, but the Beastmaster's pretty fucking cool.
It's a lot more cool than Beastmaster 2.
Beastmaster what? I don't know what you're talking about, huh?
Yeah, there was never a Beastmaster 2. It went from 1 to 3 for behind the scenes reasons.
Yes.
But I will note that I do that, and I said this when I talked about the White Mage in that video the other day. I appreciate when we have support archetypes that aren't one-trick ponies that can actively participate.
Yes.
But next,
And,
go ahead.
well, I would say that that's because of what the fantasy is around Gubat-Banwa.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the different.
I think if there's anything to take out of this sort of thing, it's that whole martial and magical divide that has been inundated in the tabletop world and a large amount of the game design world for over 50 years. I really think getting rid of it helps more than it hinders.
That's one thing. The other thing is if you look at a lot of not just in Southeast Asia or in Asia in general, but if you look at tribal societies across history, across the world, the shaman types, if you want to call them that, here they're called mediums or witches, but the shaman types have been as much warriors as the actual frontliners of tribal fighters. This has been the case everywhere. If I want to use probably the greatest empire that ever graced the world, no, not the Roman Empire, the Golden Horde. Shaman from the Mongols were everywhere. And they fought while throat singing, among other things. They did this both as a way to bolster morale. As long as you could hear the shaman, the gods were with you. The gods of the land were there to support you and your steed as you rode down the enemies of the Khan. But they could fight like nobody's business. Because they had to be combatants too. So this idea of, hey, yeah, our support, quote unquote, can fight too, is more like, yeah, our fighters can support too, because they have to be able to fight before they can support. It was almost ingenious of tribal societies to do it that way. Mm-hmm. It went out of vogue later on because more stratification started to occur in militaries and in societies in general.
Yeah, and when I've said that particular line should be dialed back, I've had some people strawman me and to say, "Oh, you just want everybody to do everything." No, I just don't think that there's a reasonable enough benefit to having the martial magical divide as a default assumption.
Exactly.
Because that's really the problem that I have, that there's this idea you have to have that divide. Both as a designer and as a player in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm.
And in reality you don't. It's just,
I mean, we certainly have that sort of divide superficially in FF Legend, but if you look at how any or all of the jobs work, it's not there.
It is only there if one chooses it to be.
Well, beyond that, I would argue that even though it doesn't use MP, some of the effects that our jobs in the warrior class have are absolutely supernatural, magical-like effects.
Samurai, monk,
Dragoon,
Dragoon,
Berserker. Mm-hmm. They all do. Every one of them. And while it's not magic, you're not spending MP and pulling from our spellcasting list, it is still a supernatural, magic-like fantasy effect. And because of that, it's clear that our warriors aren't just beat sticks. They don't just, oh, I have weapon, I hit good, and that's it. It's very clear that our warriors are meant to be something more than most people would expect from warriors, to be honest.
And when you look at the fighter archetype in a lot of I'd say video games across the board, that whole being the beat stick isn't as applicable anymore.
Yeah, we're not playing Final Fantasy 1 Fighter here.
Oh, and funny you mentioned that, because I believe a few weeks ago there was an update for Final Fantasy Renaissance, and even that is no longer just the beat stick, because it has a war cry ability. Oh,
an ability for something that is supposed to just be do all physical weapon like damage, but is actually it does something to help your friends in a support capacity, and it isn't necessarily physical in nature? Huh. Who'da thunk?
Yeah.
Who'da fucking thunk?
Yeah, this is a it is very much a case where, I mean, if you want to do the classic route with Renaissance, you can. However,
but it's not necessary.
Yeah. Pretty much. It's not. Oh. Not to. And what all that and given the fact that we talked about fighters being both beat sticks and support, Warcry gives the party a boost to attack power for 2 rounds.
Nice.
And of course, there's the world ability that is Shout, which is basically an intimidate check to intimidate people to move out of the damn way. And in the same vein, the monk was no longer just a thing you get for the glitch, but actually having a chi system.
Hey, it works.
And yes, part of that involves spending chi to do combos or to heal. But the point is, the beat stick. I've mentioned that the heal bot is something that is a bad idea. In the same vein, the beat stick is something that's a bad idea, because having people just focus on doing a one-trick pony thing, with very rare and very specific exception, is going to be less engaging, because of the fact that people are only doing that one thing.
Yep.
And with that said, normally we would continue with the next batch of disciplines next week, but given that Free RPG Day is tomorrow, and given one of the entries on Free RPG Day, next Friday we'll be calling a bit of an audible. I realize that this kind of breaks the 3-in-1 rule that we've had, but this was a case where it's a special enough circumstance to warrant it.
Exactly.
Because next week, and hopefully Thea will be joining us for this, we will be looking at the Jumpstart kit for Shadowscar. Some of you may recall that we talked about that Dicebreaker article on Shadowscar, say, about half a year ago.
About that long ago, I think so, yeah.
And and it was recently announced that it's going to be putting a Jumpstart for Free RPG Day. Depending on the size of that Jumpstart, we may have to do some skimming, but I doubt it's going to be that big. I mean,
We'll
a lot
see.
of the stuff that comes out of Free RPG Day isn't huge stuff.
Yeah, it's not Hewegg. It's not Xbox Hewegg.
Because it's a quick start. And what kind of idiot would assume that a whole RPG could be grabbed from just a starter kit?
Shit.
Ship high in transit indeed. But that is a story for another time. So until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.